be joining us as we start. Julie, if you can click record, now's the time to start recording. 5 o'clock is probably just that time where people are rolling out of meetings and into this thing if you are on East Coast time. But I'm really excited to have you all here. As I get started, I would love for everyone here to put in chat your name, where you're calling from, and something that's new already in 5781. The new year just started with Rosh Hashanah, Shana Tova, and I invite you to take this moment to think about what's new, whether that's in your own life, in the world more broadly, just anything that's new. And I'll leave some time for those to come into the chat. And while they're doing that, I'm just going to give you an overview of what we're doing together. We're here together for just 45 minutes, a really quick Zoom session where we'll be learning, doing a quick Kapparot ritual. You'll learn a bit about what Kapparot is. We'll start with some learning from Rabbi Amichai Lau-Lavie on Teshuvah, and then we'll be doing a bit of an introspective activity together. And by the end of this time, in just 45 minutes, you'll be making a gift of your choice to an organization of your choice. So it's a bit of a whirlwind. We'll record this and have this up on our site if you want to invite friends or family. We also have the activity worksheet, which I'll link to once we get started. I want to start by passing the mic to Liz to introduce herself and Amplifier, and then I'll introduce myself and pass it over to Rabbi Amichai.
Hey friends, I'm still stuck on thinking about what's new. I love that question. I'm Liz. Thanks for joining us. Amplifier works to ignite and strengthen giving inspired by Jewish values. We're super happy to have everyone. And I think Tony, yes, I was just going to ask. And a special shout out to Tony Felsen, who's on the call, because Tony is a board member of the Natan Fund, which is both one of the biggest, hi Tony, one of the biggest giving circles in our network, and in many ways, Tony is like the dad or the grandpa of Amplifier, but gave birth to Amplifier and it's like a huge.
That's new. That's new.
And so it means a lot to have you on the call. So and thank you and Natan for your partnership. And yeah, I'm gonna throw it back over to you, Sasha. And I'm gonna continue to figure out what's new this year.
Yes, it's only been a few days, so take some thinking. So hi everyone, I didn't introduce myself. My name is Sasha Raskinyan. I am Amplifier's program director, and I'm excited to bring together some of these programs that invite us to talk about, think about giving in collective, exciting ways rooted in Jewish values. This is an invitation to set an intention and to lay a stone along a path of giving for 5781, rooted in a ritual that has been a Jewish tradition for centuries. And now I'm going to quickly introduce Rabbi Amichai, who's going to start us off with some learning. He is the founding spiritual leader of Shul NYC and the creator of Storytelling Inc. He's an Israeli-born Jewish educator, writer, performance artist who's been hailed as many, many things by different publications, including an iconoclastic mystic by Time Out New York, a rock star by the New York Times, and one of the most interesting thinkers in the Jewish world by Jewish Week. In the Forward has named him one of the most inspiring rabbis, and he was top 5 on the Forward 50. Yada, yada, yada. I'm going to pass the proverbial mic to Rabbi Amichai now, who's going to share some wisdom with us. And just let me know when to share the screen.
Thank you, Sasha. Thanks, Liz. Nice to see your friends. And nice to see Tony, my old buddy, and Julie as well. I see your smiles. Abby, Sarah, Lisa, we're a small group. If you're able to share your videos, that will be great so we can learn together. But if not, that's okay. I'm here in my home in Harlem. What's new is that you can't see, but beyond me, there are lots of colors on my walls. I decided to take August as National Color Month and turn my house into a color box, because why not? I'm here for a while. It's almost done. So that plus lots of other ways of trying to show up. I'm very grateful to be here. Amplifier has been really a wonderful partner in the Lab Shul community. We just finished a year of working with our B Mitzvah teens who had created a phenomenal giving circle and learned so much about what the values of showing up are about and collaborating. And we're about to start more together. So Liz is an old friend, and I've known Sasha for a while, and go Amplifier.
I have to interrupt because I didn't do you justice. Like, I mean, on top of everything else, Rabbi Amichai is really my rabbi and our family's rabbi in many ways. And so it's like very special for me personally. I'm like overwhelmed by both Tony and Amichai in the same room together. So,
Amen.
Amichai, thank you so much. I
I
really do appreciate it.
Happy to be together. And what Liz is not saying that her husband Jeremy is our violinist. And so our Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah is not without the same. So here we are, one big sticky family on the eve of Yom Kippur. There's lots of things to say about this moment in time. This is a season of awe, unlike one that whoever we are on this call, I would imagine we've had. It is true galactically because of pandemic and the global reality we're in. It is true because this country is in the middle of a national process of reckoning that is overdue, but is right on time. And that for each of us in the Jewish community, wherever we are and however we are, there are so many changes. And whatever's going on in Israel, whatever's going on in our own communities, the death of RBG, this is like, whew, these are big days. And on top of that, every year, this time of year, is a big deal. It's an invitation for true process of asking ourselves, where do I come from? Who am I? What do I want to leave behind? And how can I be better at these, the answers to these questions and feel good about myself? Self-help in many ways. What I want to share with you is some thoughts about one of the elements of the answers to this question that I don't think always gets a lot of attention, and this year does. And I'm really grateful for the folks at Amplifier for turning a spotlight on this peculiar custom called Kapparot, Kappuras, as they call it in the old country, which is on the one hand barbaric, primitive, gross, and completely like everything we hate about patriarchal Judaism. On the other hand, deep inside of it is the kernel of opportunity for redemption and for something deeply needed right now, which is not just repair, but also on one level, reparations. And I'm not just talking about the political terms of reparations as far as what the African American community is calling on the rest of this country to acknowledge, but the deeper knowledge, the deeper context of spiritual and material reparations. How do we fix what is inherently broken on so many levels? So to get us there, I want to share a very short text from the Talmudic legacy of our ancestors that talks about 6 ways you can live your life and really rock it. This is my loose translation of the Talmud. Sasha is sharing this text. It's from Tractate Shabbat, and it's one of several how-to lists of how to live a good life. You might recognize it if you are a morning goer to a synagogue near you now on Zoom. A version of this exists in some of the early morning, early bird versions of the Tfilat Shacharit. Here are 6 things, 6 actions a person benefits from during one's lifetime and even gets extra benefit from in the life to come. We're going to put aside this life to come business. I don't have a strong hold on what happens after. But I think our rabbis meant that these are like so big. So these are like top priorities for now, and you get brownie points after. Let's leave the after for after. Here we are now. What are they? Why this random list? And as I read these, and we'll have a couple of minutes to talk, I just wanted to think like, why these? Why particularly these? That one random rabbi, we do have his name, doesn't make a difference right now. Why dafka these? The first one is welcoming guests, whether you invite people into your home or your Zoom room or your country, or what does it mean to be truly hospitable? Number 1, brownie points. Number 2, visiting the sick, bikur cholim. Big question in COVID. Those of us who are home alone, freaked out. How do we go visit others? Like, how do you activate upon others that which you need yourself? But in our Jewish tradition, bikur cholim is a big deal, especially when we're vulnerable, mentally, physically, however way we need others. So showing up for others at a time of need is a big deal. The third is iyun tefillah, which I translate as deeper contemplation during prayer, but one would even say contemplation or even meditation. Find a way to really go inside, to be in inner conversation with your soul, with yourself, the source, whatever your version of God or energy or reality is about. Take the time to really introspectively be in contemplative care. Fourth is Hashkamat Beit HaMidrash. Get up early and go to school. Now, Beit HaMidrash is the Jewish term for where we go and do Jewish studies, but I would say it's where you get up in the morning to really engage in wisdom and get up early while you're at it, because it's when our brain works the best. Fifth, Megadel Banav L'Talmud Torah, Jewish education. Make sure that you invest in education. For us, it's like, of course, my poor kids now on Zoom. But really, for so long, like many other people on the planet, we have prioritized education, literacy, knowing where we come from, who we are, what is our legacy, so we can become active participants in the public context. Education is key. And finally, the sixth one, v'hadan et chavero l'chaf zchut, giving other people the benefit of the doubt. I sent her that email a week ago. What's going on? You know, or way worse than that. I went for the easiest example, but like we judge so damn much. What does it mean to give others the benefit of the doubt? So before we even go further of how this is connected to Yom Kippur and to Kapparot, I'm just curious. You're looking at this. Always fun to have an old text with new eyes. And the randomness of this DNA in this Zoom room right now is probably a once-in-a-lifetime situation, although we could replicate it. What's going on here? What's the pattern? Why do you think these six things, how do they go together? Why are those the six whammies for living a good life? Is there a pattern?
They're all outward.
They're all about...
Actually, I'm wrong, because the deeper contemplation threw me off. But like most of it's doing some active, not passive. It's like,
well, one could say that to meditate is to be super active because you got to do it, right? You actually have to negotiate your inside and your outside in a real active way that isn't easy. So, Tony, I think you're onto something there. Anything else you're noticing that you're curious about, or like, what's that doing there? Or I wish that was there. Or like, why is that the pattern?
well, I don't mean to hog the mic, but my original answer was they're all outward to other people, except again, I'm stuck with the deeper contemplation during prayer seems to be more inner, more individual versus exterior.
So how would you reconcile that 5 and 1? Let's say you had to, which you don't.
Maybe the deeper contemplation supports the other 5. So it's sort of like you need to sort of go back in to go out.
I love that. And I think Abby is writing something similar in the box. Argue prayer has impacts outwardly, right? The more you are actually present, Iyun Tefillah doesn't just mean pray. God, I need a parking spot. That seems to help. But actually, no, I'm taking the time to really be in conversation with self so that I can be present. And yeah, and we don't pray in a silo. We need community. But I would say yes, and Abby, frankly, I think there's certainly, I would say that for myself, as the extrovert that I am, nothing makes me happier than taking time by myself for tefillah, even when there's a minyan. There's this and there's that. And certainly COVID has been an experience for many of us in not just dealing with isolation and solitary reality, but actually in some ways, some of us finding it as a balm to try and understand aloneness. But either way, I think you're right, Tony and Abby, and if anyone else wants to jump in, go for it. There's something here about both the internal and the external. 6 things, of which 5 are absolutely about being in communication with other, investing in education, in your children, in being forgiving of others, and taking the time to internalize your reality, to not just be on autopilot, to go deeper. And I think that's where the notion of reckoning comes in. And that's where the next notion of repair comes in, and the notion of Teshuvah. Now, Teshuvah is a funny word, and actually, Sasha, we can, I think, unshare the text. Happy to share it with you all later if you want. Teshuvah, the Hebrew word, the concept means return, as in return home, as in return to your better senses, as in rehab, as in fix something that's broken. It also means tshuva as an answer. If I ask you a question and you give me an answer in Hebrew means tshuva. So it's an answer to the question. And I want to suggest that tshuva is the answer to those questions that we ask ourselves when we look ourselves in the mirror and when we do iyun tefillah, when we truly reckon. What have I inherited? Where have I come from? Who am I? Am I who I want to be? And who do I want to be? What do I want to leave behind? And if I can ask myself those three questions and be honest in my sometimes forgiving and sometimes maybe harsh reality of, ugh, this is where I come from and look where I am now. Look at my short, my short givings and my places where I'm missing the mark, and be like, oh, I used to fit into this pair of pants, and I used to meditate a little more, and like, what will it do that's going to make me be who I want to be? From the silly to the profound examples of our lives. And so Teshuvah was invented way before Freud, and now we have a lot of therapies and self-help books to help us do this work. But I think that once upon a time, it was a really profound invention. We were invited into Teshuvah on an annual basis, the way we're asked annually to go do our taxes. And to, for those of you who have a car, I think there's like this 10,000 thing that you got to do or something. Or whatever we do annually when you like go to the dentist. You're like, okay, check up. Here we go. Right? Check up. So this is the mental iyun tefillah checkup. How am I with bikur cholim, with visiting the sick? Receiving and giving. How am I in being vulnerable and dealing with other people's vulnerability? How am I with achnasat orchim? Am I inviting people into my heart? Or am I too afraid of that because I've been scarred? Let alone, how am I dealing with the civic, political, other ways of dealing with being welcoming, etc., etc. So here comes Yom Kippur, season of awe, season of return, season of hard questions, and finding a lot of wonderful and weird ways to do this work. One of those things is Kapparot. Kapparot is a Hebrew word that is related to the word Kippur, expiation, atonement. It's a cover up. I'm covering something that I don't want with a fresh coat of paint. But it's not a cover-up in the sense of whitewashing. It's a sense of like a new opportunity. On the eve of Yom Kippur, growing up in Israel in an Orthodox home, my father would do the Kapparos ritual. And my father, rest in peace, his photo is right there next to me, was a Polish Holocaust survivor who grew up very Orthodox. And after the Shoah was like still Orthodox, but with a sense of obligation more than, I would say, deep spiritual commitment. And but he would do this Kapparos thing on eve of Yom Kippur, completely reluctantly, and with not a chicken. That keeps happening these days, despite every cry against it, but with a checkbook. And I remember thinking, what the F? This is the stupidest thing ever. I've seen the chicken ritual. We can talk about it more if you don't know about it. I get its primitive culture. It comes from like the 8th or 9th century, where on the eve of the Day of Atonement, we do this ancient sacrificial thing. You swing a chicken over your head 3 times. I'm sure Sasha is going to talk about it. And it's supposed to be a replacement. Like instead of me dying, this chicken will die. And then either you give the chicken to charity or it just ends up in the garbage or whatever. But basically the poor chickens are an ancient way to sacrifice themselves instead of meat. And then at some point, the people say, nah, chicken's complicated, it's messy, they crap all over the place, they die. So checkbooks were introduced. And my father would literally do this over our heads, and we would like roll our eyes and look the other way. This year, because of Amplifier, my father's memory is redeemed. Thank you, folks. And I'm like, yes, this is the year to actually, before Yom Kippur, engage in tzedakah, in these 6 things. Be internal in my reckoning and be external in my world repair. And I am doing a lot of work on reparation. This year, Shul is engaged deeply in the work of racial justice throughout the season. And we're in the middle of a course called Separation to Reparation, to really take this next year to think about it in many, many ways. And the reckoning that I'm inviting us to do is not just about the reparation of racial equity and justice, but like, where am I part of the problem and not part of the solution? And as Sasha walks us through this wonderful tool in a moment, I'm going to say that for me on Erev Yom Kippur, I'm going to take my checkbook, I'm going to honor my father's memory, and I might or might not swing it over my children's heads and mine. Chances are I won't. But I'm still going to dedicate myself to how am I going to create a meaningful process of charitable giving. Not because of charity, but because of obligation to be part of this work. So I'm going to pause here. I'm going to hand it over to Sasha to walk us through this amazing tool so we can do this ritual together and then maybe get other people to do it before Yom Kippur. And I'll come back later to actually try and do this with you. Pretend there's a chicken in the air. I have stories about that, but not for now.
Thank you, Rabbi Amichai. So as Rabbi Amichai alluded, we're going to do this ritual together. I'm going to paste the link. You have 2 options. You can either go through this on your own, or I'm going to share my screen with the resource I just linked to. You can click that link and download it yourself. It's a fillable form. You can do it on your computer or by hand. But the whole point right now is that we're going to go into a bit of an introspection first on what a meaningful giving practice might look like to you. And the goal today is to quickly, simply, without a lot of stress, take a step in that direction. And to take a step in that direction in line with this ancient tradition that has some wisdom for us, even as there is a lot of rabbinic debate about it as well. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. If it's easier for you to look at your own worksheet, that is absolutely fine. You can just minimize the screen share. And I'll just walk us through it. And what I'm going to do is walk through each portion and pause and give you a chance to write out your answers with some background music, and then we'll sort of continue as a group. I invite you, if you want to do this with anyone else in your house, kids, family members, this is the chance to welcome them into the room. Traditionally, this is often done with others in your family, with others outside, on Eastern Parkway, wherever it is. So we're going to start here at the top with portion 1, where I'm just going to invite you to go ahead and read through this yourself. As I mentioned, at the end of this ritual, you'll be giving tzedakah, making a donation. And to get there, we're going to start, as Rabbi Amichai invited us to, with some internal introspection on what a meaningful giving practice means to you. At Amplifier, we really root our intentions in this idea of grounding in values, in Jewish values, that if we start by thinking, what is important to me, what value do I want my gift to reflect in the world, that helps guide our giving in a way that's aligned with inspiration and intention and the change we hope for, rather than like a sense of somebody asked me or I feel obligated to. It really grounds us in what is meaningful for us. So I invite you to start here to write. You can click and write, or you can just jot on a piece of paper the answers to your values and a thought on an ongoing practice of giving for 5781. You can start thinking about what a meaningful amount gives means to you. You don't have to write that down. That's sort of a line of thinking for the year ahead. Today, we're just going to say, what are we giving today? So I'm going to play some music. You'll have 2 minutes to think and write. And if you do have any questions, you can unmute yourself and ask or put them in chat. Okay. If you would like, I'd love to see your values in the chat. They can be in Hebrew, they can be in English, whatever it happens to be that you wrote down. Go ahead and put that in chat. You can also unmute yourselves and share. We're a small group today. I see justice, Kehillah, community, local community. Wonderful. Okay, so we created this resource for you to sort of run through this on your own, to do it with friends, family, if you work in an organization with a community there. It provides some content on what Kapparot is, and offers some texts here, which I invite you to peruse as you think through this question here: what is a meaningful amount? Jewish tradition has some guidance on this, and that's some of it which is pretty direct, and some of it which is much more open-ended, and leaves that decision, I think, hopefully and openly up to you and the community. So I invite you to go through these quotes and see what resonates with you, and where they both light a fire under you and where they sort of help your shoulders relax a little and relieve some of that stress that we often feel when we're like, you have to make a choice, you have to make a gift, you have to do something right now, right? That there's both the like, yes, you do in our community, in our tradition, and the sort of, it's okay, just do, like do something now, take a step. It doesn't have to be perfect. We start by doing. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to move us onto part 2, but I do want to invite you to peruse the top 2 portions, the quotes, on your time. And I'm going to give another 2 minutes, play some background music, and invite you to think through from step 1 to step 2, what takes you from sort of this question of your values and a meaningful amount, to where you're going to give right now. And again, the purpose here, I think I can always spend, like, I come up with a value, I come up with where I want to give, and then I spend hours and hours, days and days, months and months researching and asking all my friends and trying to pick the best organization. That is not what we're doing here. The point here is to make a gift, make a start. So I invite you to sort of think through your values and think where you're going to give to and where you're going to give. Traditionally, the Kapparot gift is a minimum of $18, approximately the cost of a kosher chicken, donated, if that is accessible. And then we'll do the Kapparot ritual together. So I'm going to play a different song this time, some nice background music. Take a couple of minutes. The link is in the chat. Again, if you want to open this on your own, to read through the quotes, I'll scroll through slowly and then consider where you're going to make your gift. And again, questions are welcome. Chat or unmute yourself. 15-second warning to figure out where that gift is going if you haven't done so yet. And if you have, you can start putting it in chat. Where is your gift going? You don't have to share, but if you would like, go ahead and do that. Okay, I'm gonna pause the music. And I'm gonna note that as we move into the ritual component of this, that the ritual itself is a symbolic step. The sages stress that action is required for true repentance or Teshuvah on Yom Kippur and all year long, right? So this is a ritual of saying, this money is my atonement, this gift, but the actual practice of Teshuvah, of atonement, is one of actual practice, right? So that is really embodying this as an initial step. That what we're doing together is setting an intention, and the actual Teshuvah, the actual repentance, is in the doing today and ongoing. So I am going to, with that, pass it back to Rabbi Amichai to lead us through the ritual itself. So if you want to grab a piece of paper, your little pouch to spin over your head, whatever that is.
So I love this. Again, I'm totally channeling my father, and if he's somewhere watching, I'm sure he's like dying. Can I say that? So here's what you do. I'm not going to do the pouch thing. I'm going to hold the checkbook. Who are we kidding? You can do a pouch. You can do a pocket. You can hide it any way you want. I'll just do what my daddy taught me, which is like, name it as it is. But this has been so powerful. As we started speaking, Sasha, I thought of someone, whatever. I thought of someone and something in my life where I've been supportive and I've sort of dropped the ball. I'm like, ooh, yeah, thanks for that reminder. We need each other to remind. So again, this is how I learned it, but I'm going to invite you to do it any way you want. I'm going to hold the checkbook up as a way of being witnessed by you and by whatever spirits and energies are witnessing. And I kind of like the idea of doing it over one's head. Are you holding the Statue of Liberty? Liz, what are you holding?
It's a pouch. It just happens to be green.
Oh, it looked like you were holding Lady Liberty. I swear, that looked so exciting for a moment there. Okay,
I wish I were holding Lady Liberty.
I am protecting. Here's the justice fall. And then there's some choreography here. You basically use your right hand and you go 3 times over your head. Again, imagine that you're holding a live, unhappy chicken. But we'll just do it 3 times, and then you say this. Ze khalifati, ze tmurati, zo kapparati. Ze הכסף ילך לצדקה, ואני אכנס ואלך לחיים טובים ארוכים ולשלום. This is my exchange, my substitute, my expiation, my reparation. This money will go to tzedakah. It will go to justice. And I will enter this gate, this threshold, and I will proceed, let it please be, to a good, long life and to peace. And then take the checkbook, open it up, take a pen, and you activate it. And think how amazing it is that still in our digital reality, signing a check is like somewhere where you sign. Can't use your thumbprint on your iPhone. I mean, you could, I suppose. But whatever it is, you can do Apple Pay. But the act of saying, here I am, and then give it, and then share it. And then I really do plan to do this with my kids this weekend. And I'm very grateful to you guys for making it accessible and a little fun and very real. And I think this is a year where a lot of us, as we are able, got to walk our talk beyond our usual for the sake of this country, for the sake of this planet, for our sake as a Jewish community that has the privilege right now to really be generous and to save ourselves in society. So using this old technology is a gift, and let's do it. I think there's even a hashtag.
Thank you, Rabbi Amichai. Yes, that is the next step. It's go do it, whether it's mailing in your check or going online and giving your gift to the organization of your choice. I really encourage you to do it today, right? If you made that intention, if you need 15 minutes to find the organization and the name, do that today. I mean, everyone knows the longer you put it off, the less likely it is to happen. And then I invite you to share this with your community, your friends, your family. Traditionally, it's done on Erev Yom Kippur, but anytime in these next few days. So I invite you to do that. You're welcome to share. The hashtags are in the resource. We love to hear what people do. So if you do this with a larger community, let us know. I'm going to go ahead and put a link to an evaluation in the chat. We'd love to hear what you think about this workshop, and we'll send the recording out to everyone who registered so that you can share both the recording and the resource with your community. This was an exciting process for me to create this activity, to think about this ritual, which was not a part of my life coming up, but to sort of engage with all the ways that sort of our traditions offer new entry points that are old entry points, that are a revolution, a constant return to practice, to intention, to community. So I hope that this is an invitation for all of you to do that as well. And I think the activeness of it, the swinging something, materializes it in a way. It really moves us. There's a movement there, and I find that really rewarding about a lot of the rituals that take place in this season.